Hey guys, it's Sarah from Just My Typewriter, and I'm back with more repair advice or assistance. So I have a couple series here on the YouTube channel where we talk about how best to care for your typewriter. In Typewriter 101, we talk about how to replace ribbons, how to source a typewriter, and the basic anatomy of your machine. Here in Typewriter 202, we're trying to go a little bit more in depth on the things you can do for your typewriter, the materials you can use in your typewriter, and today we're going to be covering how best to help clean the type slugs in your machine. So as covered in Typewriter 101, the anatomy video, the type slugs are the metal levers inside your machine that go up and down pressing ink into the paper. This is where your typeface is, so if you have a special typeface like script or techno, that would be on the ends of these type slugs. And on the back side of the type slugs are a bunch of linkages that link them to your keys on the keyboard. Now, over time, stuff can end up in what's called your type basket, where all those slots are, that can cause your type slugs to become sluggish and not operate in the way that they are designed to function. So today we're going to go over how to clean those and a repair tactic that might be a little intimidating, but is a great way to make sure that you're cleaning out all of your type slugs for use. When it comes to cleaning a typewriter, the first thing I recommend is a really good air dusting. This will get out a lot of gunk and dust that might be collecting in places in your machine. And if you haven't tried that yet when your machine is not operating properly, I recommend you start there with some sort of compressed air to clean out all of that gunk. Now, if your type slugs still aren't operating properly when you've air dusted your machine, the next thing you can do is start to add in some sort of solvent to help dissolve some of that dirt and dust. I go with mineral spirits, but I've also heard of people using lighter fluid. Mineral spirits is a lacquer thinner, so you don't want to get it on the outside casing of your machine. But what I will do is take either a squeezy bottle or put it on a toothbrush and work it into the type basket. The type basket is that metal section where all of your type slugs feed into so they can pivot up to your platen to type. What I'll do is I'll work it into those spaces. I might work the type slugs that are particularly stuck up and down a couple times to get that mineral spirits all the way through their travel path, and then I will air compress that as well to evaporate all of that residue there in the type basket. Sometimes this doesn't do the trick, and sometimes you need to go a little bit further into your type basket to clean off this residue. So there is a way that you can do this. On the ends of your type basket, after you've removed whatever ribbon covering device you have on your machine, you're going to notice either two little screws or two little holes in the side of your type basket right around the top where it meets the casing. Inside here is either going to be some screws or a piece of wire. The screws are there to cover the wire. That wire acts as a pivot point between your type slugs, which are linked to your keys, to allow them to kind of travel up and down one singular path. It connects all of them together. What you can do is use a wire, a screwdriver. I've used toothpicks or picks before to push this wire, and as you push this wire, it'll start to feed out of one end of the basket, releasing your individual type slugs from the basket. Now, I do this one at a time because all of your type slugs are linked to this exact same wire, and if you remove them all at once, it becomes a little messy. So I will slowly start to push this wire out, and as a type slug becomes released from the wire, I will remove it from the machine. Your type slug is going to be linked with an S-hook at the back of the type slug that feeds into a hole, and that'll link into your keys. I remove this S-hook along with the type slug, and I lay them out in the order in which I take them out so I can put them back in the same order. You also want to take pictures as you do this so that you can realize which way the type slugs and the S-hooks travel. Some of your S-hooks are going to be facing one way, and halfway through the keyboard they might start to face the other direction. So reference photos anytime you're taking apart a typewriter can be really helpful. What are you You never jump on this table. As you start to take out these S-hooks and type slugs, you're going to see some sort of dirt or even surface rust on the backs of these type slugs. Now, if it's closer to the base of the type slug where it has that hole that the wire goes through, this is what's causing your type slug not to travel up and down in the best fashion. It's probably causing some sort of friction in the path in the basket, and that's probably why your typewriter isn't operating in the best way it can. After I remove all of these type slugs, I go through the process of cleaning them. Now you can do a couple things here. I usually start by just wiping them down with mineral spirits and then a dry cloth. Often this can get any kind of dirt or dust or residue, anything sticky that's been stuck on the back of these type slugs, and I will wash the entire length of the type slug itself because sometimes you get other things on there too. If that isn't enough, and maybe you have surface rust, which I've had on these type slugs before, you can take a wire brush or some sort of buffing pad and go ahead and remove the rust this way as well. Rust can cause friction again in that type basket. It's a very tight slot that type slug has to travel up and down, so removing this can help clear up that pathway. Drama, that's disgusting. You can't do that on TV. I, at this time, while all the type slugs are out of the basket, also go through and flush the basket. You never know what might end up in between those tracks. So I will take mineral spirits again in a ventilated area, and I will wash that through the type basket just to clean out any dirt. I'll take a toothbrush and scrub pretty diligently between the slots just to make sure that I'm removing anything that might get that type slug stuck in its travel path. After I'm sure everything is clean, I start to put it back together. Now this is a little bit of a slow process, and the more you do it, the better you'll get at it, but I will take that wire and start to feed it back through again. I usually start on the same side that I removed everything from. I will feed the wire in to where I see it go through the first slot and then back it up a little bit. I will loop the type slug's S-hook back onto the key bars to make sure it's attached to the key. I will feed the type slug back into that slot and then push the wire through and test to make sure that the type slug itself is caught by that wire. This takes a while, and I do recommend you go in order and you're patient and you take your time. You want to make sure that every S-hook is linked back up in the way that it came out and that all of your type slugs are looped through that wire piece that keeps them all in your type basket. Then you're going to put back in any caps or screws that are there protecting that wire, and everything should be back in your type basket. And now it's the point where you get to test to make sure all of those keys are operating up and down. Now sometimes, even after we've done all of this and we've cleaned everything, the type slug itself doesn't sit well in the basket, or it gets caught up at your ribbon vibrator. And sometimes this happens because keys have been bent over time or misformed as they've been used. The metal here at the top of the type slugs where your letters are is a little bit malleable, so it can over time get formed into the wrong shape. If you're looking at your type basket and any of your keys seem to sit up a little bit and not go all the way down into the type basket, that can be an indication that someone maybe pressed too hard on a key, got a type slug stuck, they removed it from the basket, and it just got bent in the wrong shape. You can form these carefully. If you move your type slug up, type it into the platen. If it gets stuck there, I usually just wiggle the top a little bit and keep testing it, slowly wiggling and forming it to make sure that it'll travel all the way up to the type basket, through the type basket up to the platen, and fall back down. You'll also notice it'll start to sit better in the felt part of your type basket, and it'll all match up nicely. So that's another trick that you can use here if your type slug itself isn't forming to the rest of the basket. The other thing you can do here is if you are noticing any hole punches in your lettering when you're typing, or any filled in circles, that your type slugs and the type face might be dirty itself. And here's where I'll use mineral spirits again and a toothbrush and just go through and give them a really thorough scrub. This will remove any ink that you might have. The other thing you can do here is use a wire brush and clean out all of your typeface. So you want to remove any of the gunk that might be stuck in the circles of 9s and O's and P's and R's. That can get really kind of cluttered over time. So using some sort of solvent in your type basket or a wire brush can help remove any of the stuff that might be causing your typeface not to look as clear on the page. So hopefully between some of these steps, the easy step of dusting, the more advanced step of adding a solvent, and the pre-bow advanced stage of removing all of your type slugs, you should be able to remove anything that's stopping your type basket from operating properly. The good news is that this isn't a super complicated process. It just takes patience and a little bit of organization. You can absolutely do this with minimal tools and minimal experience as long as you keep yourself organized and you have a screwdriver and maybe a set of pliers. I've done this a couple times on machines. It has really kind of changed the entire action of a typewriter for me, going from something that's sluggish and not operating well to something that has great action. So if your typewriter isn't operating in a way that you feel it should, and it's because of the type slugs, this is a trick that'll help you make sure that it's back to that restoration quality of being able to type smoothly and get everything nicely on the page. There are other pieces of content here in the Typewriter 202 series that might be of interest to you, so I've linked below the playlist for Typewriter 101 and Typewriter Typewriter 202 down there in the description if you want to learn more about typewriter repair and maintenance. If you have other ideas for what should be included in this advanced course, Typewriter 202, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. If you're interested in more typewriter content, there are some other videos here on the YouTube channel, as well as on my Instagram at just.my.typewriter. I want to thank you all so much for watching and remind you, you're just my typewriter.